Amazing twist. Millionaire's daughter chose the hidden cleaner over 5 rich suitors. Discover why. Emma Thompson stared blankly at the glittering decorations of her father's estate. The grandeur wrapped around her like an unwelcome shroud, suffocating her spirit instead of elevating it. As her phone buzzed with yet another message from one of the affluent suitors, she groaned inwardly. Each one flaunted their fortunes and societal accolades, but warm smiles felt rehearsed and phony. The pressure felt insurmountable. Her father's looming 60th birthday was more than just a celebration. It was a stage set for the perfect societal display, and she feared she was just another prop. Love is the ultimate currency, her father had once said, nestled in the plush comfort of their opulent mansion. The sentiment echoed now, uglier than ever. How could she dismiss the myriad of luxurious futures that awaited her if she chose one of these polished men? The weight of expectations settled on her shoulders like a boulder. Yet deep down, an uneasy discomfort festered. Something was off about their intentions, something she couldn't quite articulate. Would anyone truly love her for who she really was, untouched by the trappings of wealth? As the evening of the grand event approached, Emma found herself venturing out late at night, wandering through the estate's labyrinthine halls to escape the gaudy preparations. That's when she stumbled into Carlos, the humble cleaner whose presence provided an unexpected breath of fresh air. Their conversations were simple, yet meaningful, grounded in reality. His dreams of becoming a teacher resonated so completely with her own struggles in academia that every word felt cathartic. In the shadows of that sparkling opulence, Carlos stripped away the false personas her suitors wore like armor, exposing a genuine ambition free of gilded influence. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The sound of the door creaking, followed by whispers, flooded her with a newfound determination. But as her father's birthday loomed closer, the dichotomy of her world crushed down upon her. It was not just Carlos's authenticity that drew her in. It was the way he challenged her perception of everything she had been taught about success and love. What about the real world? The gritty air of triumph. Could any of her suitors match that? The night descended, and as the birthday celebration commenced, chaos erupted, with broken dishes echoing through the grand hall. In that moment of pandemonium, Emma felt an instinctual yearning to break free from the constraints of expectation. Her suitors scrambled, their polished exteriors cracking under pressure. Without thinking, she found her voice. "Carlos, come up here," she shouted, pulling the cleaner onto the stage, a symbol of her awakening. Gasps erupted from the crowd as she pointed to him. "Why should wealth define who we love?" she cried, fueling a budding firestorm of outrage. Her father's expression shifted. Confusion and dismay morphed into disbelief, igniting the tension in the air. Emma's heart raced as raw and unfiltered emotions spread like wildfire through the room. Would she defy not just her suitors, but her family's very foundation? Carlos stood there, surprised, caught in a contrasting world of wealth and authenticity. Emma caught her breath, facing her father's piercing gaze, a reflection of her inner turmoil. The question loomed larger than ever. Would love triumph over the entrapments of wealth, or would she risk creating an irreparable rift within her family? The atmosphere thickened, each moment holding the weight of impending transformation, leaving Emma's fate teetering at the edge of uncertainty. The murmurs from the crowd echoed through Emma's mind as the weight of her impulsive decision loomed larger than the grand chandelier above. She turned back to Carlos, whose expression flickered between shock and vulnerability. In that charged moment, the reality of her audacious proclamation settled in. This wasn't merely a rebellion against her suitors. This was a declaration of her own identity, a stand against the conventions shackling her heart. "Why should wealth define who we love?" echoed in her mind. Instinctively, Emma stepped closer to Carlos. The light from the chandelier cast an ethereal glow, illuminating their contrasting worlds. Somewhere amidst the clinking glasses and flowing champagne, she sensed allies and adversaries forming. The guests were not merely spectators. They were titans of society whose opinions could either build or shatter her future. "Are you sure about this?" Carlos whispered, concern knitting his brow. The sincerity in his eyes made her heart flutter, amplifying her resolve. It was that concern, that vulnerability, that made him stand out. He wasn't here to bask in her wealth or status. He was here, willing to confront the complexities and contradictions she felt buried within her. "I've never been more sure," she said, the words flowing out as a balm to her own confusion. "I cannot continue pretending. I need something real." The laughter and whispers from the crowd swirled like a storm around them. Emma's father stood at the forefront, and she caught his incredulous glare. He had always been a man of reputations and alliances. The anguish etched on his face indicated he wasn't just disappointed. He was wounded, as if his ideals of societal standards were being crushed by his own daughter. But in that moment, a realization dawned on Emma, a visceral awakening that shook her core. She was forged from the very expectations that now sought to imprison her. The cozy fireside conversations with her father about love and social currency collided against the stark reality of this bold act. She had emerged from the shadows of her upbringing and seized control of her narrative, but at what cost? The flamboyant trappings of the evening suddenly felt suffocating. The walls of the grand hall constricted as she questioned the task ahead. It was not merely about choosing Carlos. It was about dismantling the expectations her family had built around her. As the anger of society seethed, Emma realized she had ignited a revolution of her own, one that challenged both her personal beliefs and the very ethos of her lineage. She took a deep breath, steadied her gaze on Carlos, and announced, "This isn't just about love, it's about finding a way to live authentically." The audience quieted, the gravity of her words hanging in the air, palpable and charged. Yet, that quiet did not last long. From the back of the room, one of her suitors stepped forward, fuming with indignation. "You think you can throw away everything we've built for a fleeting moment of passion?" He spat, bitterness lacing his tone. The challenge hung there like a magnet. Emma's heart raced, her instincts igniting. The confrontation had been unleashed. Now she had to defend her choice, not just to the suitor, but to herself and her family. Emma felt the weight of judgment surrounding her, but at the same time, clarity fueled her spirit. She was done seeking validation in others' expectations. "Tell me, what is your version of love?" Emma demanded, her voice unwavering. "If it's not about authenticity, then what does it even mean?" The charged air shifted, and she recognized this confrontation not as an ending, but rather a beginning and unveiling of truths long buried beneath opulence. Emma could feel the decisive moment coiling inward, drawing everyone closer to her inevitable reckoning. As Carlos stood beside her, steady, she realized that facing her father would be the true test of her growth and self-discovery. But in that moment, a curious thought crept into her mind. Would choosing authenticity truly empower her to rewrite the rules of love and legacy? With newfound determination, she drew a deep breath, ready to face her father's judgment or a familial fracture. The stakes were high, but she was finally ready to embrace the challenge of change. The silence in the hall stretched taut, each second a battleground of potential outcomes. Emma could feel her heart hammering in her chest, the gravity of her decision crystallizing into sharp focus. The truth of her statement echoed in her mind, emerging more boldly against the backdrop of a sea of scrutinizing faces. This was not merely a question of love, but of autonomy, of stepping into the arena unshackled by the ironclad grips of societal expectations. As the suitor's words faded into the background, she turned her gaze to her father. His face was a mix of bewilderment and hurt, like a fragile glass threatening to shatter under the weight of her rebellion. She had always been his pride, molded to fit a narrative he orchestrated, yet here she stood flawed, defiant, and finally free. Waves of anxiety washed over her, threatening to undermine her resolve. She had to ground herself. "You've betrayed everything we stand for." Another voice interjected, a wealthy matron who had been one of her father's closest allies. Emma's expression hardened. The stakes of her choice didn't merely ripple through her family. They reverberated through the entire social fabric they were woven into. Is it betrayal to seek my truth? She shot back, her voice steady but fierce. The room leaned in, captivated. She could almost taste the tensions, the anticipation mingling with disdain. There was a hunger here, not just for scandal, but for authenticity, a validating thirst she had forgotten until this very moment. But as her conviction began to root itself deeper, doubt whispered in her ear. Could she really defy a lifetime's worth of expectations in one evening? What if her father's disappointment became a chasm too wide to bridge? But even in that fear, resilience bubbled to the surface. This wasn't just about her. It was a radical choice that could inspire others to seek their truths, despite consequences. Emma, Carlos murmured softly. He could see the strain etched across her beautiful but tense features. She looked at him, and the innate kindness in his eyes reminded her why she was doing this. His unwavering support had been the steady undercurrent that encouraged her journey towards self-acceptance. Look at all of us. She gestured toward the other suitors and her father. We're stuck in this grand performance playing parts we never auditioned for. Isn't that the greater betrayal? To ourselves? The murmurs surged again, tangling with the tension that crackled in the air. Carlos took her hand, a grounding force that filled her with a peculiar energy, one that whispered of resilience and the power of vulnerability. Emma, her father's voice cut through the crowd, taking on a desperate edge. You don't understand the consequences of your actions. You're putting everything we've worked for at risk, your future, our legacy. The disappointment layered with veiled threat made his words heavy. Or maybe I'm finally breaking free from a legacy I never wanted, she countered, centering her gaze with an intensity that forced him to see her not the daughter he crafted, but the woman she had chosen to become. The emotional stakes had shifted. She was no longer negotiating who she should be, but instead presenting who she was prepared to embrace. The faces around her shifted, surprise morphing into something akin to respect. Could this be a pivotal moment, not just for her, but for everyone present? Emma felt a swell of newfound purpose rising. She had forged her own narrative amidst the pressure and uncertainty, and the realization of that strength began to dawn. Yet, as the reactions around the room shifted from disbelief to speculative intrigue, a new idea nudged at her consciousness. What if authentic love, true connection, and a meaningful legacy could be constructed anew, informed not by wealth, but by genuine understanding? In the growing intensity of that thought, Emma sensed a path forward unfolding, one that might lead to healing not only her relationship with her father, but perhaps shifting the societal expectations her family had long upheld. An idea ignited in her mind. What if she could unearth the past and bring forth a new version of their legacy? She took a deep breath, her heart racing with possibility. Perhaps the real journey of authenticity lay not just in defying her suitors, but in crafting a new narrative with Carlos by her side. If they could survive the storm ahead, would they be brave enough to confront the remnants of their worlds together? The moment of truth lingered like unshed tears. Emma's confident smile hinted at the courage she was ready to wield, one that could redefine love's legacy, starting with her own. The energy in the hall transformed as murmurs shifted between speculative intrigue and whispers of outrage. Emma's heartbeat quickened, fear and determination blending into an exhilarating concoction. As she stood at the precipice of change, she realized that the scrutiny of her surroundings was no longer solely about her actions, but also mirrored society's reluctance to embrace authenticity. Through the haze of surprise, her father's face tightened, caught between the desire to maintain their legacy and the dawning reality that his daughter was not the unyielding echo of his dreams. Each selected word from his mouth felt like an anchor weighing down her resolve. Emma, this isn't just about you. You're dismantling generations of respect and trust. Think of what others will say. She drew in a deep breath. The stakes had never been clearer. All I've done is refuse to perpetuate a farce. The declaration echoed against gilded walls filled with portraits of their forebears, trapped in time, mirroring expectations long outdated. Perhaps, she pondered, their legacy was nothing without the soul that fueled it. Her heart raced as Carlos's hand enveloped hers more tightly, his grip infused with warmth. Confidence surged within her, a sudden awareness ignited. This was not merely a confrontation. It was an exploration of untapped potential for herself and perhaps even for those who watched. We hide behind our titles, wealth, and privilege, wearing masks that shield us from our vulnerabilities. But what if we dared to peel those layers away? The crowd shifted, curiosity mingling with apprehension. Emotional vulnerability, her ultimate weapon, could inspire disruption. Was she prepared to face whatever came next? Yes. The thought solidified in her mind as she stepped forward, a new readiness igniting. Let us unravel the fabric of these expectations. Let us challenge the belief that our worth is tied solely to wealth. Who decided that love and respect must adhere to a formula drawn from archaic traditions? A ripple of surprise ran through the audience, but Emma noticed something else, a glimmer of understanding in a few pairs of eyes. Their positioned brows began to relax, as if they too were grappling with echoes from their pasts. Silence fell again. She searched her father's eyes, pleading with him to recognize her new path. His expression flickered, battles fought within him. She might not have been the polished daughter he wanted, but perhaps, in this unshackled pursuit of authenticity, she was igniting something far more valuable, a chance for real connection. Carlos's support remained firm beside her, enabling her to confront lingering doubts. Could they shift from disdain to solidarity together? Risk lay in every corner, the risk of failure, rejection, and fragmentation of her family's legacy. But with each breath infused with conviction, Emma felt a towering resilience. If she continued along this trajectory, perhaps she could carve a space for personal development, a summoning of energy that challenged the very foundation of her upbringing. We have the power to shift perspectives, she continued, her voice gaining strength. A new legacy can be built on shared truths rather than deception. Feeling the swell of anticipation in the room, she glanced once more at her father. Emotions flickered across his face like shadows under flickering lights. There was fear, yes, but there was also a hint of admiration. Yet amidst the swell of encouraging energy, uncertainty prodded at her. The reality of facing her father and the vast, tangled roots of their familial expectations loomed intimidatingly across her horizon. Then came another wave, a realization. She had to confront not just her father, but also the emotional clutter that sealed their relationship, confront the expectations, the pain, and most importantly, the love they professed but had struggled to express. Dad, together, we can redefine our legacy. But I need you to be on this journey with me, she spoke, propelled by a courage that felt new and unfamiliar, yet exhilaratingly compelling. Before he could respond, a flicker of movement in the crowd caught Emma's eye. As the figure stepped into the dim glow of the hall, Emma's breath caught in her throat. It was Clara, her childhood friend, the one person who had always seen beyond the gilded walls of privilege and expected perfection. Instinctively, Emma's hand tightened around Carlos's, her pulse racing with a strange mix of comfort and trepidation. Clara had once been the keeper of Emma's secrets, the confidant who dared to dream of a world unshackled by societal judgment. Their friendship had withered under the weight of social expectations, Emma enveloped in family duty, and Clara drifting through her own struggles in a lower socioeconomic bracket, cleaning the very spaces where Emma's family entertained their affluent guests. But now, Clara was here, and that alone turned Emma's world on its head. Before her father could respond to Emma's compelling plea, Clara stepped forward, raw emotion etched on her features. Emma, I came because I heard people talking, she said, her voice a cascade of nostalgia and anxiety. You're speaking the truth that so many of us feel, but rarely dare to voice. You shouldn't feel alone in this fight. In that moment, Emma found clarity, as if Clara's voice had pierced the shroud of her lingering doubts. The gaze of her father burned into her, a cauldron of clashing emotions, but now she faced this pivotal moment not just in defiance, but as an embrace of her own fractured identity. Clara, Emma managed, her voice cracking with vulnerability, I need you to understand. It's not just about me breaking away from expectations. It's about using my privilege to lift up others from beneath societal gazes. I could never have seen this path without your unwavering friendship, your honesty. Her father, still grappling with the upheaval, seemed to shrink further away, the narrative of their family clenching at the strings of his heart. But Emma pushed forward, emboldened not just by Clara's presence, but by the recognition of her own evolving purpose. Every moment we live behind masks feels like surrendering to a life that's not ours. What if instead, we faced our truths? Emma sought to weave together the audience's murmurings. What if we valued authenticity over reputation? The silence summoned a collective inhale, eyes widened in reflection. Clara nodded, stepping closer to Emma, understanding fully well the stakes at hand. Emma, we've both seen too many lives defined by wealth or reputation, too many voices stifled. As the room absorbed Clara's words, the atmosphere thickened. The pain of shared experiences hung in the air, blending with the anticipation of vulnerability meeting connection. Emma realized this was her chance to not only embrace her newfound identity, but also to create a dialogue about personal worth that transcended titles and wealth. She could advocate for the power of shared stories and communal growth. Together, let us ignite conversations about creating spaces for everyone's voice. Emma continued, her heart amplifying the urgency in her words. These conversations begin now right here, right with us. As the conviction in her voice swelled, she took a step back, entrusting Clara with the next words. It was a silent agreement between lifelong friends that suggested mutual empowerment rather than competition. Almost as if on cue, her father interjected, his voice shaking. And what does success look like then? Is this the legacy you want to build, Emma? One that shuns the success your family fought hard to create? The question hung, reaching for confrontation as palpable fear shadowed his resistance. Emma met his gaze, ready. The maternal warmth and wisdom Clara represented, mingled with the responsibility of her family legacy, sent a conduit of realization through her. The time had come to face the narratives that bound her to the past and dare to carve a new path, one that honored her roots while leaping into the unknown. Success, she answered steadily, is not about wealth or approval. It's measured by genuine connection, empathy, and truth. With that statement, a subtle shift occurred in the room. Fists loosened, guarded expressions softened, and a different kind of energy coursed through the crowd. But just as relief began to unfurl within her, Clara spoke again, her tone now urgent. Emma, there's more about what I've discovered while outside your world. The new revelation loomed. And as it did, Emma felt the tremor of possibility in her bones. Would Clara's insight deepen their bond, or would it unearth questions Emma was unprepared to face? The air thickened with anticipation, and Emma's mind raced with myriad scenarios of what Clara might reveal. She stood poised, the weight of her father's expectations still anchoring her, but Clara's presence was a lifeline pulling her from the depths of uncertainty. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Emma, it's about the stories I've encountered, Clara finally pressed on, her voice steady despite the tumult around them. I've met people, good people who, like us, have fought against a tide that wanted to drown their voices. They were silenced but resilient, carving out lives of wisdom and passion despite the odds. I believe they deserve to be heard, just like you do. Emma's heart raced as Clara spoke, and she felt a spark ignite the dormant ideas swirling in her mind. She had long known the privilege that shielded her, yet Clara's words opened up a pathway she couldn't ignore. It wasn't enough to simply speak, she needed to cultivate a platform for those voices. What if she began to weave their narratives with her own, fostering a community of empathy and understanding? Tell me more, Emma urged, a newfound fire lighting her. What do you suggest? How do we bring these stories into the light? Clara took a deep breath, her gaze unwavering. We could organize gatherings, small, intimate spaces where individuals can share their journeys. Viewpoints that challenge norms and invite discussions about lived experiences rather than inherited titles. Imagine the transformation of perspectives. You have access to resources that can create a bridge to those currently drowned by the noise around us. Emma's mind whirled with potential. Could she really use her privilege to craft visibility for those society often overlooked? The vision danced in her thoughts like a shimmering promise, demanding to be realized. Yet, a nagging anxiety crept in. Would her family perceive this as merely a misguided attempt to rebel, or could they, too, be part of this transformation? Clara, she began cautiously, her voice low as she considered the implications of her actions. What if they resist? What if my family sees it as a betrayal? Then it's time to show them that your integrity is greater than the weight of their expectations, Clara replied firmly. This is your life, Emma, not theirs. If they can't see the beauty in your journey towards empathy, then they are the ones missing out. A wave of resolve surged through Emma. She needed to confront these deep-rooted concerns head-on, not just for herself, but for every hidden story waiting to be told. Clara could help her pave the way, but ultimately, it was Emma who had to reclaim her narrative. She had to prove that authenticity could weave a richer tapestry than tradition. I'll do it, Emma declared, her voice ringing clear amidst the uncertainty. I'm ready to give a voice to others. But we'll need a strategy. How do we start? As Clara smiled, relief mingled with newfound excitement blossomed within Emma. But there was still an itch beneath the surface, a faint warning akin to a whisper that questioned her readiness. Just then, her father spoke, his tone etched with skepticism. And what will you do when the world doesn't change around you, Emma? What if your efforts go unrecognized? His skepticism seeped into the moment like a cold breeze. Emma's pulse quickened. She needed to respond to this challenge. Then I'll create my own recognition. Because moving forward isn't about accolades. It's about being true to myself, even if that ruffles a few feathers. With those words, Emma felt a shift within. She was ready to confront not only her father's doubts but the doubts that gnawed inside her. As Clara squeezed her hand in solidarity, a vibrant vision took shape in her mind, one that united her world with the myriad stories begging for just a chance to be heard. But lurking beneath the emerging excitement was an unsettling thought. What hidden truths about Clara's own experiences still lay unexplored? Just as realization struck, the storm clouds of anxiety began to gather again, with newfound courage. She took a deep breath to address the room, her heart poised between fear and anticipation. Together, we can foster understanding, but let us also be open to the deeper truths we hold ourselves. Clara's eyes sparkled, a silent agreement passed between them. However, Emma felt a ripple of unease. What could Clara still be hiding? And would opening this floodgate mean risking more than just exposure of stories, but perhaps the very foundation of their friendship? Emma stood in the midst of conflicting emotions, the uncertainty gnawing at her with a ferocity she could hardly contain. She had declared her intention to create a platform for the unseen, yet she felt unmoored, as if facing an ocean of uncertainty. Clara's sincerity shimmered like a beacon, yet Emma couldn't shake the weight of her father's incredulity etched into her mind. What if it backfires? Emma mused, her thoughts spiraling. What if I fail to connect with those I wish to help? The whispers of self-doubt clawed at her determination. Yet mingled with that fear was an emboldening thought. Perhaps failure was just another part of the journey, not its termination. The room felt both suffocating and liberating as her father's presence morphed from skepticism to an unsettling silence, like a storm cloud looming overhead. Emma took a step towards Clara, her mind sharpening into focus. Let us brainstorm, she suggested, her voice steadying. If we wish to create these gatherings, we need to have a clear plan. Absolutely, Clara said, her eyes brightening. We can start by defining what stories we want to share, who we want to reach. It's not just about the narratives, but about building trust, she emphasized. Emma nodded, feeling the embers of creativity ignite into a blazing resolve. We need to introduce ourselves first. Make it relatable. This is all about recognizing shared humanity and longing for connection. Her heart racing. She was already envisioning how they could decorate the space with compelling imagery photos of the individuals whose stories unfolded in their gatherings. The idea took shape in her mind. What if we create a visual representation, a timeline, or a map that illustrates where these stories have emerged from? It will allow people to see the broader context of their struggles and triumphs. That's brilliant, Clara exclaimed. An interactive experience could draw people in and promote empathy. It doesn't stop at just stories. It's creating an avenue for people to reflect on their own experiences too. With each idea exchanged, Emma felt that tension constricting her chest loosen slightly. There was potential, a palpable energy vibrating in the air. But as she delved deeper, another layer of complexity emerged: her family's potential reaction. Would they dismiss her attempts as a phase or scorn her for not adhering to the traditions they had valiantly upheld? It was a silent battle looming ahead, Emma's fingers trembled slightly as she scrolled through her email, searching for any local community resources they could tap into. She had begun to create a small dossier of potential speakers, individuals whose stories were bursting at the seams to be told. In doing so, she connected with a former activist whose work resonated powerfully within her soul. It could be the bridge that connected her comfortable reality to the fierce stories of struggle she aimed to elevate. "Clara," she stammered, a sudden thought igniting a flicker of anxiety. "What if we reach out to someone who has faced severe opposition in their life? Would they even want to open up to us? What if their story is too raw or painful?" "That's precisely why we must approach this delicately," Clara replied, her tone infusing Emma with a newfound confidence. "Every story deserves respect, and it's our responsibility to create a safe space. We have to be prepared. Inviting someone to share their vulnerability can be daunting." Emma felt the sincerity in Clara's words. The journey they were about to embark on demanded compassion, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to their mission. Though doubts lingered, there was a flicker of hope that she could not suppress. Just as she felt the weight of responsibility rushing in, she realized that this task was not solely about her growth. It was also about the people whose voices were silenced, as they fleshed out details. Her father's earlier words echoed in her mind. Creating recognition was important, but the focus must remain unwaveringly on authenticity. But would she be able to stand firm against familial resistance? That resolve thumped uncomfortably against her chest. Before thoughts could spiral further, Clara's voice brought her back to the moment. "What's next for us, Emma?" Emma took a deep breath. "Reaching out to those individuals is paramount, but I also need to have a conversation with my family. They will need to understand why this matters to me, why I cannot stand by, indifferent to the narratives of the unheard." A pause enveloped them, and suddenly Emma knew a confrontation loomed ahead. The challenge was stark. She would need to wield her voice even stronger than before. Would the mere act of sharing her ambitions draw her family closer or create an insurmountable divide? As she pondered this, a troubling piece of the puzzle crept back into her mind. The unexplored layers of Clara. What was hidden beneath Clara's well-composed surface? What secrets tied her to the stories they were about to elevate? Emma sensed a key piece of clarity awaited her there, and uncertainty flooded back anew. Would delving deeper into their connection strengthen their bond or unravel the very fabric that tethered them together? Emma stood at the precipice of uncertainty, her heart racing as she prepared for the conversation with her family. She paced the room, each step teeming with anticipation and dread. How would they react when she laid bare her aspirations? Would she encounter ridicule, disbelief, or worse, disappointment? Despite her apprehension, Emma grasped an undeniable truth. This moment was crucial for her personal growth. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself. Her plan was set. Express her vision with clarity, confront the doubts swirling in her family's minds, and stand firmly behind her decisions. The following evening, the familiar aroma of her mother's cooking wafted through the house, mingling with the nostalgia of childhood gatherings. Emma approached the dining table, where her family awaited with an air of casual indifference. A plate of steaming lasagna sat in front of her, but she couldn't muster an appetite. "Can we talk about something important?" she began, quieting the casual chatter surrounding her. Their looks of surprise only escalated her anxiety. "I want to share something about my future." "Is this about that project of yours?" her father interjected, raising an eyebrow, skepticism dripping from his tone. "Yes, it is," Emma replied, her voice steadying as she locked eyes with him. "I'm starting a platform to tell the stories of people who otherwise go unheard. It's about connecting and sharing experiences, creating empathy." Her mother's brow furrowed in concern. "Honey, that sounds nice, but do you really think you can handle this? You're leaving behind a stable career path for what?" "I need to do this," Emma asserted. "I believe in the power of stories. It matters to me, and I want to help others find their voice." Every word clenched but rang true in her heart. The silence filled the room, heavy with unvoiced objections. Her father finally spoke, his tone softened yet resolute. "Emma, just think for a moment. Do you really understand the risks? People might not respond positively. You could experience severe backlash." Emma's heartbeat crescendoed. "I understand that my vision may be challenging, but avoiding this path is not an option for me. Not anymore. In that moment, she caught a glimmer of respect in her father's eyes, not complete agreement, but perhaps an acknowledgement of her resolve. She pressed on, desperate to convey her passion. This isn't just a project. It's about fostering a deeper connection with those who are often overlooked. I can't just be a bystander anymore. Emma, we're concerned, her mother said gently. We want to see you succeed and be safe. This feels like a departure from the life we envisioned for you. Emma felt the gravity of their concerns. Yet, their definition of success was no longer her own. I respect that, Mom. But I'm defining success for myself. I can't compromise this part of my identity. The conversation shifted gears, veering towards emotional territories that tugged at her roots. Emma realized each question, each doubt, only further illuminated her clarity. Their skepticism pushed her to reevaluate her principles, to reflect on the dichotomy of support and constraint she felt all her life. Gradually, her father's stance softened. Will you at least consider consulting someone seasoned in this line of work? You deserve guidance. Emma contemplated this request. Yes, bringing in an experienced mentor didn't appear as a setback, it represented a strategic move towards her goal. Perhaps this was a way to integrate both her own vision and family's concern. I can do that, but I want to step back from my determination. As she said it, Emma recognized a shift within herself. Advocating for her vision had instigated tremors of transformation. She could stand her ground without shifting her values. This wasn't just about the family dynamics, she was taking ownership of her journey. Yet a familiar thread of nagging curiosity persisted about Clara, whose story remained as tangled as her own. What if Clara has secrets that might reshape this mission? Or insights that could enhance our vision? Emma's instincts urged her to pursue this line of inquiry. The tension of the family conversation hung in the air, giving way to a question that had taken root in Emma's mind. What if understanding Clara could lead to uncovering pivotal truths, not only about their partnership, but also about herself? The forthcoming exploration of Clara could be the key to unlocking their shared mission. Was she ready to confront whatever lay beneath the surface? The uncertainty simmered, heralding the next chapter in her unfolding journey. Emma woke the next morning with a palpable sense of determination coursing through her veins. The family conversation, while fraught with tension, had marked a turning point. Today wasn't just another day. It was the first step into a new landscape where she would delve deeper into her aspirations while nurturing the connections needed to propel her mission forward. She sipped her coffee, its warmth contrasting with the chill of uncertainty still hanging in the air. Clara's story loomed in her mind like a shadow, enticing yet daunting. As Emma prepared for the day, she felt the weight on her shoulders, not just a burden, but a mantle of responsibility to honor the voices she wanted to elevate. Emma's first task was to set up a preliminary meeting with a potential mentor. Her heart raced at the thought of reaching out to someone established in the storytelling arena. She had drafted an email the night before, laboring over each word, making sure to sound confident yet earnest. With a final glance at her reflection, she hit send, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. Throughout the day, Emma could almost hear her father's words replaying in her mind, reminding her of the risks involved in her venture. But the further she distanced herself from their skepticism, the more her resolve crystallized. What would it mean to truly walk this path? And what surprises awaited her in Clara's narrative? After hours of work, Emma decided to confront her curiosity. She needed to understand not just Clara's story, but also how their experiences could intertwine to enhance the platform. Cycling through the city, Emma found herself at the cafe where Clara often worked. The familiar sounds of clinking cups and light chatter provided a comforting backdrop. As she entered, she spotted Clara at her usual table, lost in thought. Emma approached hesitantly, feeling the weight of their unfinished conversations hovering between them. Hey, mind if I join you? Clara looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to warmth. Of course. I was just thinking about my next piece. You know, I've been considering how we can incorporate your experiences into the platform. I want to help uncover stories that matter, and your perspective is invaluable. Clara's eyes brightened, but Emma noticed a flicker of hesitation. I appreciate that, but I'm not sure my story is worth sharing. I mean, it's rather ordinary, isn't it? Emma leaned in, determined. Ordinary is often remarkable when it resonates with the right audience. What you see as mundane can be transformative for others. I want to bring your voice into this. Finally, Clara sighed, the layers of her guarded spirit beginning to peel away. I guess I've never really thought about it that way. It's just I have a past that I'm not proud of. That admission struck a chord in Emma. She realized Clara's reluctance stemmed from deeper insecurity and fear. The transformative power of empathy could be their shared foundation, but only if Clara could confront her truths. What if we turned that past into a narrative of resilience? I believe that's what people need to hear. The story doesn't have to end there. For a moment, Clara seemed lost in thought, calculating the implications of Emma's proposition. Emma held her breath, waiting for her response. Would Clara embrace this opportunity to redefine her journey, or would fear pull her back into silence? Just then, a flicker of determination ignited in Clara's eyes. You know what? I think I'd like to give it a shot, Emma. That moment felt pivotal, like a rock rolling down a slope, gathering momentum as it cascaded towards a broader horizon. Clara's willingness to engage marked a new chapter not just for her, but for Emma's burgeoning platform as well. As they began brainstorming ideas, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. But even amidst the excitement, a latent apprehension simmered. What skeletons lurked in Clara's past that might surface during their exploration? Could their undertaking inadvertently force them to confront buried emotions neither had anticipated? The thought left Emma with a stirring mix of thrill and trepidation. She hadn't just chosen a partnership. She had entered a labyrinth of stories, both Clara's and her own. With each turn, unexpected revelations awaited, and no longer just focused on her mission. She had embarked on a journey of mutual discovery. What was she prepared to find in those uncharted depths? The questions lingered, beckoning her towards the unraveling of both Clara's and her own layered narratives. Emma stepped onto the stage with a newfound sense of purpose, the applause of an audience echoing in her ears in stark contrast to the silence she had experienced just months prior. Here she was, standing in front of a packed auditorium, sharing her story, the story of a privileged daughter discovering her truth amidst the trappings of wealth, and her journey toward authenticity through the lens of others' lives. The visibility had transformed from a weight she had shunned to a platform she embraced, one that allowed her to bridge her past with a future brimming with potential. Not long ago, the mere thought of public speaking would have sent shivers down her spine. Yet, today, Emma stood confidently before her audience, embodying the very essence of her identity, a woman who refused to be molded by societal expectations and instead charted her own course. She had invested countless hours preparing for this moment, mapping out strategies that empowered her to honor the stories of others while sharing her transformation. This isn't just my journey, she declared, her voice steady and clear. It's a collection of voices and experiences that deserve to be heard. In the months that followed her decision to pursue storytelling, Emma and Clara had organized multiple gatherings, each one more impactful than the last. They had captivated audiences with narratives that intertwined resilience with vulnerability, creating a tapestry of experiences that resonated deeply across various demographics. The feedback had been astounding, igniting conversations that stretched far beyond the confines of the auditorium. Communities that had long been marginalized were beginning to find their voices, and Emma found her heart swelling with pride each time someone shone a light on their journey through their collaboration. As time passed, accolades began to surface, not just within their immediate circle, but also in the wider media landscape. Emma received recognition from local journals, and socially conscious platforms were eager to feature her initiative. Each article, every interview solidified her position as a pioneer of a new narrative, one that emphasized authenticity over affluence. She had proven to herself and the world that passion courageously pursued leads to meaningful change. Beyond recognition, she found fulfillment in the profound connections fostered within the community. However, the challenge did not lack complexity. Emma's relationship with her father remained strained, his expectations still looming like a specter over her every achievement. During her latest encounter with him, a delicate exchange had stirred within her an unyielding hope. Emma found the courage to ask, "Dad, would you come? Just once, to witness what we've created?" The agony in his eyes tore at her heart. She desperately sought his understanding, to shift from disappointment towards acceptance, a mutual respect that could heal the gulf between their worlds. His hesitant nod signified a tentative reconciliation, igniting a spark of determination within her. Challenges are not barriers, but stepping stones, Emma thought as she concluded her speech. She had not only navigated her path toward authenticity, she had illuminated the paths of many others. She stepped down from the stage, the applause reverberating within her, echoing her conviction that she had accomplished something monumental. Emma had conquered her fears and dismantled the very definitions of success and love that weighed her down for so long. She had shown that she was more than her father's legacy. She was an architect of her own. Each day, she felt a deeper connection to her true self, confident in her ability to catalyze change, inspire others, and embrace the richness that comes from vulnerability. With renewed purpose, Emma turned towards Clara waiting backstage, a knot of mutual understanding tightening between them. Clara grinned, her own path illuminated alongside Emma's. Together, they had forged a collaboration built on transparency, their experiences interwoven like threads in a shared quilt. Their stories now had a voice, one that echoed through the streets and halls, igniting passion and action. "Today is just a beginning," Emma whispered to Clara, an excited ember of promise igniting within them. Together, their collective dreams forged alliances where none existed before. She understood now. Personal fulfillment is not a destination but an evolving journey, one that compels you to continually grow and embrace authenticity. "This is the moment to support our journey," Emma proclaimed within, aware of the ever-looming importance of community in personal triumphs. And now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and theories about Emma's incredible transformation, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the light of change.